Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Every Day, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to find freedom and abundance and peace. I'm Liz Frericks, and this is my husband Evan.
Good morning.
And we're so glad you guys are with us today on this wonderful Friday, all you Friday people who are super excited about it.
Yeah, we made it. And yeah, thanks for spending part of your Friday with us listening to the show. We just really hope that the show is meaningful to you and helps you grow in your faith and maybe helps you sort of expand your prayer life and explore some areas of your life with God that maybe you haven't thought about before. And if the show is doing that, please share it with a friend. Let them know that this has been helpful to you.
So since it's Friday, our CSC of the day is being complete. Complete kind of has three different components. One is not being a fragmented person. So being your entire self all the time, you're authentic regardless of who you're with or where you're at. Same guy, whole time.
Yeah.
And being present in the moment. So we're not stuck in the future or the past on the worry regret spectrum. And then dealing with what is actually happening. So we're not living in an alternate version of reality or living in denial. We're dealing with things the way that they really are.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff is tied up with our emotions. So much of our emotions have to do with our perceptions of what's really happening. You know, if we are stuck in an emotion, what's happening now, our brain might turn it into something that happened 10 years ago and make it relevant somehow.
Yeah.
If we haven't dealt with it and moved on.
So this week we are talking about doing hard things. So we thought we would talk about slogging through our emotional baggage.
And it is a slog, isn't it? Sometimes
it is a slog. As someone who has had plenty of emotional baggage that I have slogged my way through, I can say that it is a slog. It's hard.
Yeah, and I think...
And it's messy.
Yeah. And
it's like crawling through a swamp.
That's right.
Okay, now you can talk.
We all have it too. We all have... I mean, growing up is difficult, and it's not without its bumps and bruises. And so as adults, we're going to have stuff to slog through. We just need to accept that as a part of life. But the problem is we don't want to. It's icky. Yeah. And we'd rather kind of like let it just take care of itself. Like let's just let time heal all those wounds. And that is such a load of crap. Time does not heal. Right.
Yeah, well, it's hard. You know, it's really overwhelming. I think so often we don't even realize how stressed out we are and how exhausted we are from carrying our baggage. I was thinking actually about being in Colorado. You know, I just got used to the altitude, my lungs adjusted. I didn't even think like, oh, this is a hard place to live or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then we recently visited and my lungs were killing me.
Yeah, after living in Southern Illinois then for the past 15 years.
Right. It was hard. Like not only did I feel out of breath, but my lungs were physically hurting, which could be, you know, related to some of my illness things. But sure. It was just, I didn't even realize how I didn't plan for it. You know, I planned for like, it's going to be super dry. We need to make sure that we stay hydrated and bring lotion. And it's going to be, you know, cold at night and probably an okay temperature during the day. So we need to bring warm stuff to sleep in. Those things were on my radar. But the fact that it was going to be really hard to breathe, totally not on my radar.
Yeah. And, you know, and I visited Colorado, but I've never lived there. But yeah, it was a shock to be there for 10 days and just kind of try to acclimate to it. It took a few days. Right. And we were camping, so sometimes we were doing some fairly strenuous activity, like hiking around and stuff. And it was more difficult than I thought it would be too.
Yeah. So, you know, I think we're just so used to our own emotional baggage because we've been living with it and we're acclimated to it. And then it isn't until we actually start working through those things that we can see as we make little bits of progress. It's like, oh, I can breathe more easily now.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, the first time, because I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and the first time I got through that into the post-traumatic growth area, and I could do something that I'd never been able to do before, it was just, I don't know, I felt like $1 million. I was so excited. It was amazing. I didn't even realize how, I don't know, I just didn't realize how amazing it would be.
Because, right. Well, how would you know, right? You've got no frame of reference, nothing to compare. I think that's the problem with, like you're saying, getting comfortable in our own kind of history and our own hangups and hurts, and they're just part of our normal. And so why would we even seek to change that? Because it's just normal. And hopefully this show and other spiritual development guides are encouraging us to push into that. But I don't know. I think this is a part of our spiritual journey that we tend to neglect, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it really is sad because there's so much benefit. You've talked about post-traumatic growth few times before, and it's just an explosion of benefit.
Yeah, you have to do the hard work, to do the hard thing of sorting through your baggage to get to that place. Mm-hmm. But it is so incredibly worth it.
Yeah. So I think it might be good to talk about some of the, so it's like, well, so if that's my normal and why would I change it? Some indicators that something probably ought to change are probably things like a sense of dissatisfaction. I think that's something we can all, if we're honest with ourselves, really identify with. Shouldn't life be better? And part of that's
living in a broken world.
Right. And part of it's, and maybe this is a benefit of growing up in public school and learning evolution. We're taught this idea of life gets better and better all the time. And especially after we've been an adult for a while and you've kind of established what being an adult looks like for you. I think it's easy for some dissatisfaction, some discontentment to creep in, some sort of a sense of I sort of thought things were going to be different.
Better.
Yeah, somehow different or better. And so I would encourage you to examine that feeling and to start there and to try to take a stock of what was this feeling growing out of? What is it that I thought it was going to be like? And then compare it to the way things are and see how they're different and stuff. But I think sometimes we start to feel that way. And then we're like, I just need to do more Christian work, or I just need to find something to distract me from this. Because I don't know what this is, but it's probably not Christian because aren't I supposed to be content?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I would encourage us to push into that a little bit. Try to figure out where that feeling's coming. Feelings are important. Right. They're instrument lights on our dashboard, and they mean something. They mean something's happening in our spiritual car.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to the benefit of that exercise because I did that, I think it was write down your top 10 stressors in your life. And
as part of a Bible study
years ago. And then a decade later, I did the same Bible study and realized hey, I have one of my top ones was money. And I was like, I'm writing this down a decade later. Something is wrong,
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. So yeah, we think I ought to be we know spiritual maturity is important and it's supposed to be changing us. And so, yeah, we need to try to start reconciling these ideas that are good. This ought to be this way. I should be growing. And then, but yeah, when you have a perspective like that, where it's in 10 years, that hasn't really changed at all. What?
Right. Yeah.
That can be a great moment.
Recognize that things don't change unless you intentionally change them. You have to put attention and work into whatever it is for there to be growth. We know that when we're talking about, plants or like we talked about on Wednesday, having muscles, exercising, we know that we don't just magically get stronger without doing any work. But somehow we have this idea in the Christian life that emotional health happens naturally.
Peter Cesaro says that emotional health and spiritual health are tied together, and you can't have one growing without the other. I think we should all consider if that truth in our lives, So I think I'm growing spiritually, but have I grown emotionally at all?
Yeah. And if not, why not?
And then have I really grown as much spiritually as I think I have? If I haven't done anything on the emotional front, it's something to ponder.
Yeah. Well, and it's just so worth it to go ahead and do the work. Several years ago, I watched Rory Vaden's TED Talk on time management. And he talks about how you need to always be asking yourself, what can give me more time or more energy or more whatever resource it is that you're looking for today or tomorrow if I do it today. And so, it takes more time today to teach my daughter how to empty the dishwasher. But that means I'm going to have more time every day afterwards if she's emptying the dishwasher. And there are things that we can do that with our emotional health. We can say, okay, what would give me more energy, more margin if I dealt with it today, so I wouldn't have to just keep carrying it on my back with this, backpack of emotional baggage forever.
And some of the things are, and it is daunting to think about starting to do any number of these things now, because they take time and energy. It takes sort of a sense of like, some of the things in my life are going to have to sort of grind to a halt right now if this is important. But these are the hard things we're talking about. It's stuff like personal inventory and self-inspection, things like making amends, confession and repentance, sacrificing anything, my time, my money, whatever, and trying to maybe mentor others or be willing to be mentored myself and actually meeting with someone who's a little bit further down the path than me. All these things can really drain your schedule real quick, especially if you're trying to engage in more than one of them at once, and it's like, am I willing to do that or not? But we've got to be. That's the good, important work. And that's the hard things.
Right. And it doesn't have to be major life changes. It doesn't have to be, okay, so I'm going to start therapy. I'm going to go all day, every day. You can just say, well, okay, so I have 1 hour a week I can devote to therapy.
Well, and that's probably all you should do. I mean,
right. You want to give yourself time to process.
Any work requires rest as well. And so does spiritual work. Like you can't be like, oh, I'm going to nip this problem in the bud. I'm going to just take a month and just crank it out. Like, it takes time to let these things breathe and for actual growth to happen too.
Right. Just like you can't water the plant all the water that it needs on the day that you
at the beginning of summer. Here you go. Here's 8 gallons of water.
Yeah. As always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you're going to strengthen those neural pathways to look for the good things in your life or strengthen those neural pathways to be frustrated with your life and to be miserable.
Yeah, the things you practice, you'll just get better and better at.
This is true.
You're pretty good at being miserable. There's a reason.
Yes. We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this episode helpful, please do share it. And come back next week, and we are going to do a tour through literature.
Yeah, we haven't really done this before, but I'm excited. We
talked about it a little bit one time, but...
Yeah. But we're going to do some book reports next week. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, just talk about some redemptive themes in the CSCs and some of our favorite books. Everybody have an awesome weekend.
Please.
Fine. I'm going to say it differently.
No, that's good. All right, we'll see you guys later.